So I'm going to ask a couple of questions that I have heard from the community, from fellow coaches, and kind of set up the discussion about all these things. First question is, when I say agile, what's the first word that comes to mind? Bullshit. I don't know why that was the first word that came to mind, but probably not the right one. Um, Complex and simple. That's not one word. So simple, deceptive. Actually, deceptive. I think that's the right word. Where did you get your personal agile journey start? Let's see. I think it was 2005 or somewhere right around that time. My boss, Julie Shebbet at America Online, invited Rally Software from Boulder, Colorado to come out and teach a certified Scrum Master class. And I had the career turning moment, I think, from that class, because I knew that this was something different and it was better than the project management work that I was doing, because I couldn't stand it. I was tired of it. I didn't feel like it worked, and I just felt like the biggest nagging person ever who only cared about dates and percentage complete and going to the PMI dinners to hear about government contracts, because I lived in Northern Virginia. So that's how it started. Your personal Agile certifications and iterations of Agile that you adhere to, and why? I don't know that I adhere to any particular methodology or framework. Um, Scrum, I don't have certifications in Kanban, but I have been taught by people who did and been coached by them to implement it, as well as coach other people and build uncertified course curriculum about Kanban. And I think for the most part, if you were to ask me a work related question, I'd say scaled agile, because most companies in the last 5 or 6 years have been interested in scaling something that they were doing. And scaled agile framework, or otherwise known as SAFe, has been the most popular one in my work. But if you ask me that question in context of my personal life, I say Kanban all the way, personal Kanban. I have 4 Trello boards that I manage my life with. I did say 4. And there might be more. Other questions. Why you think more Fortune 500 companies are adopting Agile, especially outside of technology? I actually don't know why. I know that we're inviting more of those people in those spaces to participate, because if you think about where we started in the general, we of the community, most of us were trying to help teams deliver faster and do things in smaller pieces, and that was kind of the way to do it. It was like one fed the other. But we're inviting other parts of the departments of companies, because we're realizing that if you think in terms of systems thinking and lean thinking, like Eli Goldratt's book, The Goal, even product development flow from Reinertsen, all of them are talking about how each little small tweak that you make inside the business doesn't really make a difference unless you look at the entire system, because you could optimize something here and then it still stops or slows down in multiple other places. That from an end-to-end perspective, like the great idea you had, by the time it gets into the customer, that hasn't changed, even though you've optimized a component like engineering. So I think it's more out of realizing that it's a necessity that we're bringing them in. For other reasons, I think that people like with HR or sales and marketing or finance, I think they're also curious, can I do some of this work that I do in an agile way, and what does that mean? What does that look like? And they're curious about it. And I've worked with several coaches. One of them, I'm going to give him some props, Steve Wolf, who was with Rally Software when I was there, and also at CA when CA acquired Rally. He was doing a lot in the marketing department to help with that, and ended up helping quite a few other customers in the south of the US, since you can't mention company names. And the last question, and yes, I'm wearing something different and I'm sitting somewhere else because technology doesn't always work. So I had to redo some of these things. So the last question was, where do you see the future of agility going? And this is really a hard thing for me to answer, because I've been solely focused so much on just the current work at hand and starting my own business, that to forecast where I think people are going to be I'm just fortunate that I've been able to meet so many people in the last just 6 months of doing scaled agile classes to ask them questions very similar to this. And I would now like to refer to my crystal ball, otherwise known as Clio, as we try to figure out like what's going to happen next with scaling or agility in general. And my own personal crystal ball, Clio, tells me that the product management space as well as the people management space are the two areas that I think need the most love and attention. And I am hoping and praying that more and more companies recognize the need to do that, and more people like you and me start tackling those big problems for those two business areas. Because I think if we avoid that or we don't spend more attention, the neglect that we put in those two areas are really going to be our end. And without some focused attention on those things, you can only go so far. I firmly believe that's going to be the future of agility, where I would like to see it. Maybe I should put it that way. The future of where I feel like we should spend more attention. And if I use Scaled Agile as an example, every time they do a new update, it is to expand on some area of the framework that was, for the most part, kind of light touch. Like, it was acknowledgement that we had leadership needs. And yeah, we had a chapter on it. And yeah, we talked a little bit about the touchy-feely stuff. But now we're starting to see in versions 4.6 and now 5 and probably more in the future, they're diving into those areas more deeply. And I suspect, not that I know anything, so I'm not sharing anything I shouldn't, but I suspect that they might have another course similar to Leading Safe that is for people managers, like directors and in that second, third line of management above the teams, to really help them understand their role in transformation. And I know some people are so sick of that word transformation, but you know what? Last year they were sick of all kinds of other words. And I'm sorry, but it's a good word to use for change. So if you want to change the word transformation into change, then hello 1990s. We said it then too. And then it got old. They even had things like change control board and change management and things like that that people got sick of. So just pick another word every year, and hopefully you'll get somebody's attention for a little bit longer before they ignore you again. But that was the last question that I had posed to me or shared with me over the last few years that I thought might be a good discussion starter. So if you have comments or questions or something you want to reach out, or you just want to comment below, please do. Let's start chatting.